And welcome to the stream, everyone.
Welcome.
Welcome to another Hump Day. We're back. I'm back, should I say?
Who's this guy?
Yeah, right. So we've got a lot to talk about today, actually. And but before we do, we're going to introduce ourselves. So my name is Simon Lightfoot. I'm a community leader around the Flutter community. I also am CTO at Dev Angels London, and you can find me on this Twitter handle. Scott?
I am Scott Stahl. I also have been building community for Flutter with Simon and for quite a while. I am also organizer of Google Developer Group Cleveland and developer relations for App Circle, which is why I'm wearing their shirt. You may hear some whining from a dog here shortly, who is standing next to me looking at me like she wants something.
And I'm going to, Majid isn't with us today, but we have another person with us. And Randall, welcome to the stream.
Hi, thanks for inviting me back.
I think, you know what we're going to have to do? I think we're going to have to take Majid's picture out there and put your picture in, because you're now a frequent flyer.
I am.
I was going to suggest putting him in your spot because, you know, we thought you were never going to get out of meeting hell.
Right.
It's okay.
So,
yes. But yeah, if you want to put me in, I'm perfectly happy. I'm pretty much here as often as I can be. So and it seems to be pretty often.
Yeah. Well, we hope you're always going to be here and come back often. So Scott, do's and don'ts.
Do's and don'ts. Be decent, you know, show everybody the same courtesy you do on the street. Don't do anything that would get you hit if you said it to someone on the street, please. Don't post anything that's adult content, rude, offensive. Don't advertise yourself. A big one here is don't spam, which basically means posting your same question again and again. Asking it more times will not get it answered more quickly. In fact, it will probably get it ignored. And if you can still see your question in the chat and you ask it again, you're definitely spamming. And harassment of any kind not tolerated. Come on, we all know what that means. But the one thing that if you're new to Flutter community, you may not know is that everybody who runs the different things in the community, we all know each other. We run multiple Slacks, the Flutter community Slack. I'm the owner of that. We know the owners of the Discord. We know the monitors of Reddit, you know, the whole 9 yards. If you get, well, let's just put it plain. If you get stupid in one place, we share your ID and you get kicked from everywhere. So that's one of the things that has helped keep the community cool. You know, it really has, because people know if you mess up in one place, you're gone from everywhere. And people are like, okay, I don't want that. So, yeah.
I mean, half of all of this is more about like, we want the community to be a nice place for everyone, and there's no need to be an idiot about things. We can all vocalize our opinions, but there's no need to be harassment of, you know, have any malicious intent in what you're saying, you know, just, you know, be nice.
I think that, and I believe that, and it seems to me that are great phrases because it allows you to express your opinion without coming off like you're saying it's a fact.
Yeah. So we have some guests with us today.
Yes.
What I'm going to say, we're going to push off the Q&A section of today to the end of our live session. So please, if you have any questions, put them in the chat. And as always, it's easier for us to find them if you add the hashtag or some other Q or big question mark or something that highlights them as questions and not just general chat. So please do so. So I think we have a Chris with us. Chris, welcome to the stream. Your microphone is muted. There we go.
And I'm going to mute mine.
We still can't hear you. Have you got another mute somewhere? Technical difficulties. Well, let's.
Hi, Simon.
There we go. Perfect.
Go, yeah.
Nice to see you again.
Good to see you.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
So, Chris, do you want to tell us who you are and what you're up to?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Chris Swan. I'm an engineer at the app company, and we're building the app platform, which is a privacy-preserving identity platform that people can use to build their apps on top of. And it's built in Dart, and so it's a really natural thing for the Flutter community.
Top of our list. And I hear you brought someone else along with you. Xavier, welcome to the stream.
Hi,
How's
Simon.
it going?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, good. I see you got some guitars in the background. You play well?
I play for myself. I'm learning.
Yeah. Okay, it's cool. It's cool. I can't play an instrument, so I play the keyboard. Ha ha ha. Right. So come on. That's a good one.
That's
And
my
now
favorite.
you know why I want to replace him with Randall. All right, I will be back soon. I have a four-legged furry friend who is demanding my attention.
I'll see you soon, Scott. So, I'm gonna, if you want, we can pose a few questions to you about what @sign is, because I think there's a couple of people. I mean, I know you said like privacy first. What is the @company, Chris and Xavier? What do you? I mean, I direct it to Chris first, and Xavier, I would like to hear your opinion as well. From your perspective, why would someone as a developer choose to use the @company's resources like @sign and the @Foundation open source work and so on?
So I think two reasons. The first is, many applications that we build need some kind of concept of identity, and we make it very straightforward to put identity into your apps because there's a whole set of pre-built widgets that can be dropped in there. But then the second part is about that privacy preserving, and so I think people are becoming much more privacy conscious. And the way that we often explain the @company and what we're doing to folk is essentially we give everybody on the internet a private mini server where they can store their data and have fine-grained control over who gets access to it. So it kind of completely turns around the model that we've become accustomed to, where we're constantly giving our data away to Facebook, Google, whoever else. And instead kind of brings that control back. And of course, that then needs to be made simple for users, and that's what we're doing. And so the applications then built on the platform are getting all of this end-to-end encryption of everything, essentially without any developer effort, because it's already been baked in.
So I'm right in thinking that so you've got end-to-end encryption, but you've also got data stored and encrypted at rest, and you need to have, and it's the end user's device that has, or should I say the secondaries that have the key, so that even the @sign itself, the root servers, you don't have access to anyone's data either, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of leading into one of the things that we want to talk about today with the DES, the distributed edge secondary server, because we run a cloud-based service where we host these mini servers that are called secondaries that people store their data in. But if people are paranoid about that and don't want anybody even seeing who's connecting to their server, then they can run that for themselves, and that's what DES does.
So even though the data is stored on your servers, it's stored encrypted, so even you can't access it because it's the end device that does the decryption, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So we can't
even
see
if you're paranoid about the networking side of it as well, like who's connecting to retrieve that data, even.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean that leads into something that Xavier, you've been working on, right? So would you like to share your screen?
Before we even get into
Go
that,
for it. No, please.
I just wanted to add on what I'm trying to do specifically in terms of the @company is really focusing on making app development on the app protocol like so much easier for developers, and really trying to drill down. So that's something I'm going to be talking about later on today. Is just how can we make writing an app on the app platform as simple as possible.
I mean, half of the problem I see from my perspective is just, even for myself, when I first heard about what you guys were doing, it's just getting your head around the mental model of how it's almost reversed in nature, right? Like the contract between you and the server, and that principle is very much not what you expect. So you have to approach the problem differently. And I think that's half of the half of the problem is just to experiment. And I think when a developer gets in there and starts using widgets and stuff that you guys have been working on, I think they're going to get that first-hand experience and and then things will start clicking, being, oh, because of this and because of that, and they'll start seeing the bigger picture about how this works. Yeah, I think there's a hurdle, there's an initial hurdle that developers are going to have to get over personally, I think. But I think once you get over that initial hurdle, there's a lot to learn about and a lot of interesting stuff you guys have been working on. Talking of which, do you want shall we bring up what you've been doing?
Sure, go for it.
So please walk us through what is DES?
So essentially, every person that signs up for an @sign has to have their own secondary server for that @sign. DES is our distributed edge secondary server, or it's your way of self-hosting your own secondary server for your @sign.
I just want to go to the before we get. I just want to go to the basics. An @sign is essentially someone's username, right? It's their account, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So okay. So this is setting up your own secondary server.
Yeah.
Feel free to walk us through it. I'm interested to know how we do this.
Sure. So I'm gonna take us over to GCP. I've already set up just a little VM here. This has 2 virtual cores and a gig of RAM. And so I've set this up in advance because sometimes DNS records take a while. But essentially, I have this domain here, des02, pointing to that VM instance. And so if I've already SSH'd into it here, but the setup process, if I come back over here, is very simple. We've managed to get it down to just 1 line for setting up your DES server. And so this is directly on our documentation website here. I'm just going to copy and paste.
@sign.dev. Okay.
Yep. And so we have a script.
Our inspiration here, Simon, was the original Docker install script was like this. And I think Docker managed to get a lot of early developer traction because it was just so easy to use. And so we're trying to do exactly the same thing here.
Oh, it is that. I mean, half of it is just to get developers to look at what you've been working on, because the inspiration is that part of it. It's sort of someone sees it and goes, actually, this solves the problem I had, or this does what I needed to do, and they take the onward journey to make use of the technology. But it's getting that initial traction. Yeah, so sorry, Xavier, go ahead.
It's okay. So I'm just going to take you through the guide. This is going to take a while, so I'm just going to move it over to the right-hand side here. But in terms of getting started, there's 2 portions of the setup. So the way our DES installer works is there's a first-time setup, which configures the actual machine to be able to host like a secondary server. And then there's a second portion, which you run once for each @sign. So if you want to host 3 DES instances or 3 secondaries on 1 machine, you can do that. And so depending on the architecture, each DES instance or secondary will only use between 6 to 11 megabytes of RAM. So you can host several of these on 1 machine.
And I think this is a great example of how lightweight a Dart native server-side component can actually be when we're deploying it. So what this script is doing is installing and configuring Docker, and then putting the image that has the secondary into a customized configuration, and it's taking care of certificates and all of the other pieces that we need. But that Docker image is the same Docker image that we run on our cloud-based service, and that Docker image weighs in at about 6 megabytes. So it's absolutely tiny, and we can do that because the Google folk have recently created new official Dart images that support 2-stage build, and so for the first stage we can do the Dart compile, and then in the second stage we can start from scratch an empty container, and then just put in that minimal set of runtime libraries that the Dart virtual machine needs, and then the executable that we've ahead of time compiled. And as I say, the total for that it's about 6 megs on the largest platform. And one of the other things we've done here is multi-platform support. So this will run on ARM v7, so a variety of Raspberry Pis. It'll run on ARM64, so a Raspberry Pi with a 64-bit OS like Ubuntu, or some of the newer AWS instances that are using Graviton. And then, of course, also x86 64, which is the mainstream hardware and virtual machines.
Okay.
So yeah, thanks for bringing up the matrix, Xavier. That really helps.
Actually, it's really great that you've got this working with sort of Raspberry and ARM v7. I think it's a good step forward to and ARM64, and sort of good step forward in terms of looking at those new ARM-based server deployments, right? So
yeah, and one of the behind-the-scenes details that some Humpdayers might be interested in there is we've created our own spin of the Dartificial image, which is pretty much exactly the same, except it supports ARM architectures as well as the x86 64 architecture. So anybody else interested in doing stuff with ARM with Dart, I expect official support for that is coming, but we've already got unofficial support that we're doing there for ourselves.
Nice.
Okay, so
Xavier, please continue.
Yeah. So I've already set up the domain. It's kind of hard to show this because depending on where you have your domain, it'll be different. But in essence, you just create an A record with whatever subdomain you want and the IP for your virtual machine. The next piece is to actually go ahead and register for an @sign. So from our website, if I make this full screen here, you can, if you already have an account with us, you can log in or you can get an @sign. Once you've gone through our registration process, it'll take you over to your dashboard. And so from here, I can go through all of my @signs. So these are all the ones I currently own. And so orange ones are ones that have been activated. And this green icon here means that it's been self-hosted with DES. So in this case, I haven't used this one yet. So I'm going to go ahead and go manage and go to our advanced settings here. And so now I'm going to pull up the record, which is DES02, and this is the IP. And so I need to go ahead, and bin the domain here. So this is my personal domain. And I need to give it a port. So I've actually opened up port 6464 on my VM, and that's the port I'll be using here. And maybe this @sign doesn't like me.
I think you have to type in your @sign.
To do the delete all data there, Xavier.
Oh yeah, this one's activated. Apologies. I'll go ahead and do this one. So this one should be fine, and I can activate. And so it's gonna sit on activating until I actually activate it through my DES server. So it's looking at my DES server right now, or my VM, and trying to find that secondary currently. So if I come back over to my terminal, and we will pull this guy over here, I can head back through my documentation, and I should have this DES create command available to me. So in my terminal, if I type sudo DES create here with a dash, you'll see I get the usage for it. So I need to pass in 5 arguments here, and they're as follows. So the first one is the @sign I'd like to use, and the @sign I'm using is salamander worrying. The next thing is my fully qualified domain name. So that's the domain name I've entered in my advanced settings here. And I also need to put in the port. Then this email is to sign the certificates with. So I'll use this email. And then the last thing is what the Docker service will be called. So this is my salamander @, so I'll just call it sal. And I can press enter, and you'll see it's attempting to sign the certificates now. So I'm going to get my phone ready to go here so that I can actually go ahead and activate this. So this QR code is essentially the private key for the @ here. And I'm just in one of our apps here. And I'm just going to add a new @ here. And so this @ is salamander worrying. I don't really have a good way of showing my phone.
That's okay.
But
what is the app? What is the app name so people can go to the App Store and download it?
So this one is actually in test flight right now. This is Buzz, but we're pushing out an update for our app called @Wavy. I can actually pull it up on screen here. It should be @sign.com apps. So Wavy will have a button in the onboarding, which is our equivalent of login flow, and you'll be able to click scan QR or something along those lines, and it'll pull up a nice QR reader for you.
So we've actually been streamlining the onboarding process for this, Simon, so that generally now there's no need to use a QR code. But for the self-hosting,
you still need to do
no way that we can securely tie up those self-hosted private keys to our infrastructure, and so that's why the QR code's still being used.
So I'm gonna see if I can get. Oh,
sorry.
I'm gonna see. You'll see. Just there's a QR scan there. It's quite hard to see, but I'll just scan. And once I've gone ahead and done that, it'll give me an option to actually save my key. So, and when I do go ahead and save my key, I can use the key file to onboard with any other apps going forward.
So you should back up that key file because that's your private key. You can't lose that, otherwise you won't be able to access your data, right?
Yeah, once you lose it, you have to go ahead and reset your secondary completely. So
I'm gonna just geek out for a second. Is that QR code done with like a text font?
It's done with a library. I can actually go ahead.
No, I was just curious.
We can geek out. It's done with a package called QR encode.
Okay.
And yeah, that works in the terminal, and it's pretty good at doing that. Occasionally, you get lines because of terminal settings, and so far we've found even with the lines, the QR code scanners are generally pretty good at ignoring.
They're pretty good at doing that, yeah.
So at this point, you're pretty much good to go.
So sorry, going back to the instructions. So you've scanned it with your phone, and the app on your phone has activated has done the key exchange and activated the @ sign. So if you go to your this Salamander app, if you go back a screen and refresh, that will show as activated here. Am I right in thinking that?
It should. Sometimes it's a bit delayed with desk servers. But
yes,
here now. There we go.
Activate. Perfect. Okay, so now you've linked up an @ sign to a private key that you hold now, and that's on your private secretary and on your personal device.
Exactly.
And no one else has the information.
Nope. So once this QR has been scanned, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but once you've scanned the QR code, you're the only one that actually has the private key.
Exactly.
Nobody else can scan it.
These QR codes are used to bootstrap the key generation process, and it's a one-time authentication token for that purpose. And so once that QR code has been used, the set of keys that are then generated are the keys that are used to access the @ server from then on. And even if that QR code was somehow compromised, it can't be reused in order to derive that set of keys. That's one aspect to it. The other thing is, if people are messing around with these servers and somehow want to regenerate the QR code, then we have a script that does that for them. So if you miss it first time around, or you're having problems with your terminal or whatever, you can go back and regenerate it. And I've just today written down some instructions for, if you're doing a test cycle and you want to blow away your secondary and just start again from scratch, then we've detailed the various directories and contents within them in terms of what's going on there and what people can delete if they want to strip state out of the secondary in order to zero it out and start afresh with it.
So okay, so let's say we've all got @signs now, and we understand how we get an @sign. We understand how we register it with our own secondary server, which stores our encrypted data. How do we make use of it? Like what is the next step from a developer?
So from a development standpoint, you can of course create an app. One of the cool use cases of having your own desk server is that you can actually see data transfers from within an app. So if you're using a desk @sign for testing, you can actually see, I guess, sort of the transmission of data to and from the secondary.
So I was just looking up. I was just trying to find this. Actually, I'm going to share it on screen. Hopefully, if this works. Let's see if this works. Bear with me. Yeah. So I was just looking at this. So you've got on pub.dev. We have. I'll pop the URL into the comments for everyone. So this is the publisher. So this is where you've got all of your current Dart packages that people can take advantage of, all published up here. Are there some other mechanisms? Are there some? Is there any preference? And would you suggest that anyone looks at anything first?
So yeah, exactly. The @app package. So @_app.
Mm-hmm.
This is a package that came out 2 days ago, actually, and it's our equivalent of the Flutter create command. So essentially it builds off of Flutter create and allows you to create an protocol application template app.
Do you want to show us this working? Have you got a demo at all?
Yeah, I'm ready to go on that too.
Okay, I'll bring it up on stream.
Awesome. So here's the same package Simon was just showing, and I'll just go ahead and so right now the way you sort of run this is through pub. So you can do Flutter pub global activate @app. You'll see it'll resolve the package. And then because this actually uses the Flutter SDK and the executables, you can't simply run it with that app. At this time, you currently have to actually Flutter pub global run it. So from there, you'll see you can go ahead and do create. And what's interesting about this is there's actually a few flags that have been added. Oh, if my terminal, there we go. So I'll make this full screen so we get a nice big view. So there's these 3 flags, which you probably haven't seen before. All the rest are directly from Flutter create, so they should be familiar. But these 3 are specific to an app protocol application. The first one is the namespace. So this is something sort of used to filter through data between different applications. Because all of the data for a particular @sign is stored on one secondary, you need some way of filtering out that data X is for a particular application and then data Y is for another application. So you use a namespace to do that. The next one is your root domain. Typically, you'll be using production or virtual environment. And basically, this just determines what root server your application is using. And then the final one is an API key. This is used within the onboarding Flutter package to generate free @signs. through our registrar website.
So I'm right in thinking, so the root domain is going to be production because I've just registered my @sign on the @sign website and activated there. And because I've linked my secondary, my DNS host name and port on the root server, that's how that's all going to link up and work.
Exactly.
Production.
So
Gotcha.
we have multiple methods of setting up, but if you're using DES or if you're using anything @sign.com related, it'll be through production.
Mm-hmm.
So I can go ahead and give you sort of a test run of this. And so I'll just throw in some dummy data for this namespace. We'll call this the dummy namespace. And then I'll do the production root domain. And finally, an API key. I don't actually have one at this time, so we'll go 1234 1234. And then we'll call this our @app demo. And it'll just do its thing for a second, and eventually you'll see all the files from Flutter Create being built, and as well as a few other files. So if I go ahead and open this up in code, we'll pull this into the main view. So this looks familiar. This is a Flutter Create app. But what you'll notice is if you go into main.dart, it looks a little different. And so what we're actually doing here is behind the scenes, there's the app actually also contains a library portion, and that contains the @env, which is just the .env file loading your environment behind the scenes. The next thing is this @client preference. So this has to be configured based on your application, and this essentially determines what settings you want for your @client. So there's some things like how you want your app to sync with the secondary. Do you want it to be when you specify, or do you want it to be every time you make a request, just sync immediately, that sort of thing? And then the next thing is just your My App. And over here, you'll see there's a little bit extra going on in the scaffolding. So we actually include an onboarding widget for you. And so this will just give you the option to onboard your @sign immediately. And then finally, down here, you'll see this builder. And this builder actually returns what we call the @context. And so @context allows you to very easily just get the @client service, the @client, and the current @sign. So these three things are essentially the three basic tools you need to actually start working.
So this is like a provider. So this provides to the rest of the app these two
Exactly.
things, service and preference, and then throughout the app you can then get to those values.
Yeah, thank you. That's exactly it. And so you'll see I just have a second screen here with a couple of examples. And so I can actually boot up this app and we'll see how it looks. Oops.
You didn't pray enough to the demo gods to make it run first time.
I'm too fast sometimes. It really likes Chrome.
While Xavier's getting that to be in the right state, it's worth touching upon the role of the namespaces and I think how this is going to help develop not just an app ecosystem, but potentially a data ecosystem. So, one of the things that various apps are constantly asking us for is biographical data. It's kind of name, address, that sort of thing. And so potentially what can be done here is applications using the app platform will be able to share namespaces or aspects of namespaces with other applications on the app platform. So if your user has already put a whole bunch of biographical data into another app on the app platform, then when they start using your app, that data is already there and you can just reuse it.
So am I right in thinking that's kind of where Wavy comes in? Because in Wavy you can create your profile, and then another app can request Wavy data about, whatever the biographical information is, like name, first name, last name, whatever it is. And then you get to specifically pick and say, I want to share this information, or I don't want to share this information.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're still in full control of that information, even though it's gone to the third party provider. That other application, you can still cancel that, as it were, at a later date.
Yeah, and Xavier touched upon sync as well. So, what's happening under the hood is we've talked about the secondary and the fact that you can have secondaries hosted on our cloud service, or you can self-host with theirs. But then sync is the app synchronizing data with the secondary, and each app is independently syncing data with the secondary. So you can have the same app running on multiple devices. You can have multiple different apps running on the same device, and any combination.
Sorry, I was just looking at something there. I thought you had registered Flutter Whisperer, but immediately after that, I saw Nash. Yep.
Anyway, so I mean, I'm kind of curious, Randall. I mean, and Scott, you've heard about @sign before. Have you got any questions about this, or are you curious about the process that's involved?
Mainly, what I'm looking at is right now is the apps and filling in information, and it's a little bit unclear because on the website it says you can scan your QR code to set up, but when I go into the app, it wants you to type in the @sign.
You type in the @sign, and then you scan the QR code to activate that @sign.
Okay.
So the @sign. So it's a two-step process. Yeah.
Right. No, I'm having a little bit of a problem with activation. Anthony's on it right now. That's why I've been going.
For me, it's similar. There's something in the app. I'm using @buzz to try to activate my Randall Schwartz @sign, which is great. Thanks for providing that to me. But I don't see the right steps in the app to get to where I'm scanning a QR code that's clearly in front of me.
And I've got someone. I guess it's coming from Randall's side. So I'd recommend the only one I haven't used Buzz, but I've used @Wavy to register and activate mine, and it worked quite well. So that's what I suggest. So we've got that up and running now, Xavier.
Yeah.
All right, let's bring it back up.
So I have this big button in the middle here. The idea is that
so onboard @sign, does that mean you get to do that whole process that we were just talking about through here?
Yeah.
Okay. So here you go, Randall. Go use @app. Go do what we just did. Flutter global activate @app in the command line, and then you can generate your first app and use that to activate your @sign.
So
go on. Sorry.
Give it to Simon to figure out a way to hack it.
We've been changing the process a bit, so that's one of the things. In terms of activating an @sign from our registrar site, we have a new process, which is like an OTP verification.
One-time password, right?
Yeah. So you don't actually need, oops, that was a misclick. So you don't actually need the QR code anymore. But the idea is that if you do want to go ahead and you already have the backup keys. So on this emulator here, I actually have the backup keys. The idea behind the process is that I just put in the @sign I want, and then it'll ask me for my backup key. And I can go ahead and just find it here on the device. And
the one time that you wanted to work, it doesn't want to work.
Yeah. Let's see. It should actually have it behind the scenes, but it's just not playing nice. So there we go. So it actually recognizes my @ here. And if I were to, it'll take a while because it's an emulator, but if I were to fully close down the app and pull it back up, my @ would still be onboarded.
Right.
So I no longer have to enter any passwords or anything, and I'll be syncing my data with the cloud all the time.
So, okay, so with the app protocol itself is, yes, we've got this end-to-end encryption, but it's also like storage, right? Because if I've got a bunch of data that I need to, let's say, as we were just saying, let's say first name, last name, right? I know it's really basic profile information, but I could then use that the libraries that you guys have made to send that data to the secondary, and it'll be stored encrypted on disk. And then a third party app, if they want to, can request for that data, then you have to release that data to them. There's obviously something along those lines.
So
I mean, obviously it depends on how you build it, right?
Sort of, yeah. And so what you're going to see here now is I'm just going to quickly show some of our libraries in a quick live code. And the idea behind this is that one of the use cases for, I'm going to hide this emulator for a moment. But one of the use cases for using a secondary in the way that we do, or for using namespaces, is that I can sync contacts across apps. So I'm going to be implementing our contacts library here, and you're actually going to see contacts pulled up on this emulator that are contacts that I've previously registered through other apps. So I'm just going to create a contact screen here, and I already have this code handy. So what I'm going to do, and actually I'm going to create a chat screen as well. We're just going to spin up a quick chat app.
And are we saying that, so because we're doing chat and contacts, are we saying this is basically WhatsApp in simple form? Obviously, this is like end-to-end encrypted conversations and contacts.
Yeah, so pretty much. I'm gonna use pubspec assist here, and we'll just,
except that you can revoke someone's access, right?
Yeah.
Because goodness knows you could never revoke Facebook's access to all your data once you let them in.
So
You
imagine
can't revoke
WhatsApp,
it, but I think you can delete it.
but not just messaging, but the ability to build a whole app ecosystem around end-to-end encryption.
That's the other point of this, right? Like, it's not like you own all the apps. You don't stop anyone from deploying their apps or anything like that. It's not like Facebook. You have to push the apps through the Facebook platform, or Google, or some of these other sort of third-party sort of app store kind of things where you have to push it through their system. People are building their apps independent and can upload them to the app stores, and there's no restriction as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of, if you imagine what happened if you took Pass, which was previously a Facebook property, and they actually shut that down, and there's maybe some people watching this who built apps
I
on
had
top
an
of
app.
Pass.
I had an app on top of that I had to migrate away. It was tragedy.
Yeah. So if you take Pass and smashed it into WhatsApp, then that's kind of what we're doing here. So a completely open application ecosystem based on a platform that's providing a set of services, and all of those services are encapsulated inside of end-to-end encryption.
Definitely. I mean, the possibilities are kind of endless, right? I mean, there's a lot of open options. I think it's a case of just understanding just the unique way that you approach things because of the mechanism and the way it works, right? Because to solve that problem, you're approaching it from a perspective of, it's not really the general sort of server-client relationship you'd normally see in an app where a user has all their profile information, or all users' profile information are in one location, right?
Yeah, it's a complete inversion of that. All users' profile information is in their place, under their control.
And then any other user is essentially request access and get access from them. So it's that kind of.
All right. Do you mind if I take it away, Simon?
Yeah, go for it, please.
Awesome. Okay, so this is an implementation of a contact screen. So it's actually using our library here. And what you'll see is that all I have to supply is that when I press the send icon, it'll take me to a chat. And what that is doing is it's first configuring our chats library here, and then I'm going to my chat screen. And so over here, I have a chat screen, and I just have a few things set, like the height, the colors, and the title, as well as that it's a full screen as opposed to just a partial widget. And so if I go ahead and onboard here, it should take me in and load up my contacts.
Fingers crossed.
We only find bugs in live coding sessions, so.
Right. It's always the way. It's always the
Yeah.
way.
Okay, let's give it a hot restart.
What? How's it go? If it doesn't work first time, turn it off and on again.
Exactly.
IT crowd rules.
Yes, definitely. Well, of course, it's not going to work the time that you want it to work.
Yeah. You know what it is? It's actually my fault. I'm missing one more piece here. So one thing I forgot to do was over here in onboard, I actually need to do two things. So pull this up. So go ahead.
No, I was going to say the perils of live coding, right? Like,
Well, I always say if you're going to do live coding, the first thing you need to do is appease the goddess. And the only way to do that is to sacrifice a MacBook. You know why you make it a MacBook, right?
Or an old Windows machine.
No. If you sacrifice a MacBook, nobody's going to miss it.
Oh, my God, Scott, you've taken over my role as dad joke guy. It's okay, though. Somebody has to do it.
Whilst you're working on that, Xavier, I'm going to just have a quick chat here with Chris. So, Chris, in what would be the ideal scenario here? Would you like people to release apps with @? What? I mean, obviously we want to get usage of the @, but I mean, it's really about people taking ownership of their data. Would you say, like?
Yeah. So kind of carrying on from the notion of what we've got here is kind of parse and WhatsApp smashed together. Then, I think application developers like to develop on top of platforms because it does a lot of the work for them. And usually those platforms are coming with SDKs and widgets that are just making the assembly of applications easier. And that's what we're in the business of doing. And Xavier is in the process of trying to make that even easier, which is why we've got this early generation of the ATAP generator that we're showing off here. So, we're kind of going for that developer experience piece of making it easier to build apps. But what kind of apps? Well, apps that are privacy preserving and supporting end-to-end encryption, and so there's all kinds of reasons for doing that. So you might be building an app that's dealing with sensitive data. We get a lot of people from the various crypto coin communities looking at this to maybe support wallet type functionality because it's all based upon encryption. But I think in general, after people have seen Social Dilemma, etc., there's greater interest in let's not just serve our users up to the Facebooks of this world in terms of using their identity platforms.
can't remember what I saw the other day. I think I saw a company that was set up literally. Their premise of the company was to sell data, your private data. So you sign up, you give them all your private data, and then you get like a rebate. Like you get some money out of it when they sell your information on. Yeah. So people can relinquish control if they want to. There's another interesting concept. I can't think of doing that, and personally, I wouldn't want to do that. But it's kind of interesting though that there might be a market for such a product, which is kind of scary as well.
Well, I think if we look down the road here, there's a possibility of kind of turning the advertising model around. So at the moment, everybody's being sort of sucked into what Edward Snowden's been described as these tailored worlds, where we're all seeing a slightly different internet because it's being customized to what people think are our needs and desires. And we've each been individually profiled to have that.
The future of AI internet
to us. Whereas, what if we turn that all around and just say what we want? So instead of somebody stalking us around the internet and trying to figure out what it is that we want, we can just decide which attributes of our data we wish to share with organizations, through apps or whatever other mechanisms, and have decisions made about what's put in front of our eyes based upon that instead. And actually, if you think about how that would then relate to brands, it's a potentially much more intimate relationship, because I'm not having Facebook or Google look over my shoulder and try and second guess what I want. I'm directly expressing, these are the attributes about Chris that might be useful for you to figure out a product market fit.
Also, I suppose it also means that you get to choose. You got the other side of it, because you're in control. You go, well, I don't like that anymore. I don't like that topic anymore. Because at the moment, once these AIs learn, maybe I know you were younger, you like skateboards or something, right? So you purchase loads of skateboards. Now it knows that you like buying skateboards. So even when you're older and you've maybe moved on to something else, it's still suggesting skateboards to you. Like, oh my god,
Well, and
this, maybe with the new model, you can say, I want to remove this piece of data now. I don't want to share this piece of data.
I think we're all accustomed as well to that thing of it's kind of, you buy a new fridge freezer and suddenly the internet thinks that you've become a fridge freezer collector. It's something you buy once every 10 years. I was shopping yesterday for some new trainers, and it's so frustrating that you've got all of these services that are trying to sell you the wrong size trainer, because it's not predicated on my data. It's predicated on what they're trying to sell. And so, I think we can envisage categories of apps where, I've decided to, in apps on my @ sign, say, I wear size 12. and so, the apps using that would never need to show me anything apart from a size 12, because Chris wears a size 12.
So, okay, Xavier, how are we doing?
So I'm going to cheat here, and I'm going to actually pull up an app that I've made in the past for demos.
Here's what I made earlier. Is that the trick? Here's what I made earlier.
Blue Peter way.
It's exactly identical as to what I was trying to show. So I'm just working on pulling it up.
All right, no problem. Well, I mean, let's come back to that.
Sure.
Chris, I think we have someone else here that we can talk to at the moment, right?
So do you want to pull Jagan in? And
yes, Jagan, are you here?
His overview.
Jagan, welcome to the stream.
Hi, everyone.
So what would you like to discuss with us today?
Yeah, so just a quick intro of myself. I'm an engineer on at company. So I'm here to talk about the new stuff we are doing with the SDKs and other libraries that we make available to the app developers.
So you've got a presentation, I guess. So should we? I'll leave it over to you now.
Yeah. Okay. So what I want to discuss with everyone today is that so all those libraries that you have seen in the pub.dev, so we designed them a certain way. And then through the experience of the app developers, the ones that you have seen and the ones that you have not seen, so we started receiving a certain feedback. And then we took all that feedback and then went to the drawing board again and started doing something with our APIs with the intent to simplify for the app developer and do a bit more than that. So I will quickly touch upon all that stuff. So quickly, the protocol, the thing that you have seen, it's called ED protocol, and the ED protocol consists of verbs. So it's like our HTTP has put, get, and delete and stuff like that. So the ED protocol, we have verbs too. And typically, I would categorize the verbs that we have into two buckets. The verbs that do request and response. For example, update, delete, notify, sync are verbs exposed by ED protocol. And the secondary server, the creation, everything that you have seen, we provide a SDK actually that talks the language of ED protocol, and the app developer is completely agnostic of the underlying language that that protocol's language. They see simple methods that they call, but behind the screen we'd be doing all the TCP IP stuff and talking to a secondary server and do much more complex stuff. So basically there's a set of verbs that do simple request response, and there are other set of verbs which are more stream oriented. So the two specific verbs are stream and monitor. So you kind of do a request once and you keep getting various responses. So it's all under the hood. As an app developer, you don't have to know much of all of these. But the reason that I want to pull this up is because the way we have developed the SDK that's there in the pub.dev today works a certain way. So once you start building a app is an app that you want to develop on a protocol. So the main abstraction that you would be exposed to is that you have to get an instance of something called ED client. So SDK encapsulates all that logic that talks ED protocol, and you are those methods are exposed to something called ED client. And when you write your app code, you get an instance of it, and then you speak ED protocols. That's the way it is today. I mean, coming from enterprise world, it felt like a good start, and that's what it is right now. So then we realized that it might not be good enough for many app developers. So we need more layers of abstractions. So I would first explain why we need more layers of abstraction than this is because first of all, what SDK there is doing for the app developer is to manage the connectivity to the server, which is the secondary server. So the protocol exposes verbs, and so the SDK there does the syntax translation for you. And then all of the underlying error handling. For example, if the socket gets closed, you want to talk to the secondary server and internet is down, or maybe internet is up, but you are in the middle of something and then socket got closed because socket might have timed out or something else has happened. So SDK does all that stuff for you the way it is today. So, but then there's something that has happened in the current design and which we would like to change. So there are certain jargon to the protocol. If you look at some of the jargon that I'm talking about, for example, what is monitor, what is stream, these are the terms of the protocol: update, delete, notify, sync, all those verbs that I'm talking about. The word verb itself and the itself is kind of very protocol specific, and the lingo around that thing is very protocol specific. So somehow all of the protocol jargon got into the SDK design. For example, if you want to get notifications from the server, we expose a method called start monitor. And though there is no one-to-one mapping, ideally you want to call it like, let's say, notify or receive notifications. That's a more natural thing for you to think of. But it's kind of very protocol-ish. And the whole sync thing that we talked of, the sync is a mechanism that's exposed by a protocol, which it ensures that the data on your phone, which we call as local secondary, and the data on the cloud secondary, the real secondary, which is where your data is stored, are kind of in sync. And it's done through a verb, basically. And then the app developer has to right now know all of that stuff, that, okay, when I write data to the secondary, I have to sync, hence I have to invoke a certain set of methods and all that stuff. Similarly, the whole notification mechanism is kind of needs to be simplified. And this is an interesting thing. So we are so used to, I should have in fact called it await free sync than wait free sync. So we see that whole async await mechanism in many places in the app that you develop in Flutter, but we see that there is a need for writing await free code, actually. So if you want to, the whole philosophy that we have taken is, okay, if somebody want to do a await, it's okay. But if somebody prefers a callback based mechanism where I don't want to do a await, it happens when it happens. A classic, the example that I can give is like your emails. If you're writing a code, you don't await on receiving emails. You get when you get them, and you want to be notified through a callback or some sort of mechanism, and then you go and refresh or something. Whereas, let's say a simple request and response mechanism, you would probably do a await and then stuff like that. And we have something called stream right now. The stream verb that we expose is used by an app called Atmosphere, and they transfer files on the stream. But the idea is we want to decouple the stream from the files, and you should be able to stream any. You should be able to stream chats without actually storing them to locally. Maybe, for example, if we can stream any, you can build a Snapchat-ish thing on a protocol very easily. So basically, there are certain design objectives we have. The core thing is to simplify the app developers' usage of it. We want to really simplify and make it resilient. So with that, what we got into, before I go here, one other thing that I would like to explain is that just like HTTP, any TCP IP based or any request response or a server would have a certain way to respond to you. For example, in our case, when you save a key to the secondary, we respond with something called commit ID. So, and it's returned a certain way. In some cases, we return simple strings, and for certain verbs, we return JSONs as a response. So what we were thinking is that, for example, if tomorrow we change these responses in certain way, the app code should not change. So we have to have a higher levels of abstraction, and let's say give back simple beans back to the app developer, so that they are not worried about whether how the protocol responds or all that stuff. So then from this, actually, the new way of looking at the new thing that we are doing to the protocol is that this. So the SDK consists of a client will not be the major abstraction, it will be, but there are two other things that we are building. We are building actually certain services that does a lot more on top of the current SDK, and we are introducing something called parsers. Parsers are easy to understand. For example, parses the response from the server and gives you a simple beans that app developer can make use of. Services adds a higher level of abstraction on the core nuts and bolts of a protocol, so which was missing in the original thing, and we are actually adding that in the new SDK that we'll be releasing maybe in months' time. We're making pretty good progress on that. So it's a major release for us. So for example, look at this. This is called notification service. So by the time we publish in the pub.dev, you might see slight tweaks. So there are only two methods actually. So actually the analogy that I would like to give is, if a client is human, so it has methods like you drive, do the plumbing work, let's say go and let's say go and play and all that stuff. So all the methods that we expose, all the verbs that we have on the protocol are there as a single abstraction called client. It's like asking one person to do everything. But now we have actually change that a bit. For example, we have something called notification service that just does something called listening to the notifications from the server, and you would like to notify somebody of something. That's it. And behind the screen, the service would make use of what is already there in the protocol. But as an app developer, your experience of using a protocol would be much more simpler. For example, for this, the app usage would look something like this. Then, let's say, calling start monitor and all that stuff, it was way different. The app usage would simplify to this level. Similarly, we have something called chain service, a service that encapsulates not only writing to a secondary, but something that takes care of syncing data from local secondary to the cloud secondary. And it does a lot more than the nuts and bolts that you get in that client. So again, the app usage would be very, very simple. So let's say you would do cs.put, that does something, and then you do a put and notify. So we are working hard to simplify app developers' life, what it takes to develop an app, and the complexity has bugs associated with it. So the simplicity should result in fewer bugs, and then more stable apps and stuff like that. So yeah, that's from my end. Simon, you're on mute.
Yeah, I was gonna say thank you very much. That's actually really interesting. So when I was experiencing some of the work that I was doing with @sign libraries, there was that initial hurdle, and I feel like this really solves that really well. If the community once this gets released, I'm assuming you'll be announcing this on your Twitter, the Twitter stream. It's @sign company, I believe, is the Twitter handle. I suppose. You guys have also got a Discord. Is it a Discord channel that you're using for help for the community help?
Yeah, we do.
Someone's clicking on stuff.
Edit.
None
Edit
of the above. None of the above. So there's a Discord channel I think that the developers can join. So if they've got any questions about how to implement these things, they can go grab it. And I think that's going to be shared in the chat as well. If hint, Scott. Make sure people get the link. Okay, I think Xavier, do we have a working thing? Let's have a look. Let's ask Xavier. Xavier, how's it going? Have you got it working now? Oh, we can't hear you.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go. Now you have joined the club of professionals.
So what I have, if you want to pull up my screen.
Yeah, 1 second. Oh. There we go.
Okay, so this is a demo app I've worked on. It's essentially just a basic chat app, like I was saying before. I've spiced up the onboarding a bit. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to onboard as two different @signs here. You'll see the one on the left is Interior Wolverine. And so this is his contacts list. And this one is my personal @sign here, so Xavier Chant. And you'll see I have plenty of contacts in here. But if I go through to Interior Wolverine, you'll see that I have a little chat window. So I can say, hello.
And this is all done with your built-in widgets that are part of what's the library called?
So this is with two packages. So if I pull up the pub spec, you'll see @chat_flutter and @contacts_flutter. So contacts for the contact screen, chat for the chat screen. And so I'm leveraging both of these packages just to achieve in maybe 100 lines of code all of these two screens. And so if I send this message, it's end-to-end encrypted, so it takes a little bit to encode and decode, or encrypt and decrypt, but you'll see it comes across, and I can send one back. Great. And I can just go over the code. So sort of happens in two files here, our contact screen, which if I go down into, this should be identical to what I showed earlier, but it's just a stateful widget. It has a build function, which just builds a contact screen straight from the library. And this go to chat, which is part of the on send press or send icon pressed. And then over in chats, similar story.
So what was the issue earlier? What was the solution?
So the issue earlier is just I didn't have things initialized, so I had to go through and initialize both of the libraries and provide them an instance of an at client to use.
Right.
And
go on. Please go ahead if there's more.
Go ahead. I'm pretty much. This is what I've got. If there's any questions, I'll take them.
Yeah, I was going to say. So let's just wrap up here. I think we've got another guest, and then happy to have you back, Xavier, to answer any questions from everyone. And we'll be taking questions shortly. So again, if you've got any @ related questions or general Flutter questions, please put them in the chat somewhere on the screen. You'll find chat. And then we can sort of go through and make sure that we're reading them all and answering where we can. So I think we have another guest, Tina. I think we have a Tina here. Hey, Tina, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about this Flutter family @ community campaign that we have going on. So we all know that members of the Flutter community love their blue hearts. And so the company thought it would be good to kind of bring that love of blue hearts to the @ world. But before I dive into this, Simon, quick question. So
Go
on the 27th of October in 2019, you tweeted the following. You said, I want to start a little trend in the Flutter community for fun. So if you're on Twitter and you want to be recognized as loving Flutter, add the blue heart emoji after your name, retweet, and let's get this to spread.
When was that?
That was the 27th of October, 2019.
Wow.
So I wanted to ask, what was the inspiration behind that tweet?
You know, I think we were just we started seeing the blue heart. I think we were using the blue heart in a lot of what we were doing, and it was like, I think there was a discussion. I seem to remember vaguely a discussion between me, Scott, and Nash and a few other people saying we should just put this on our Twitter handles and show that, and so we did that. And I was like, well, let's just tweet it out and get everyone doing it, like show that that you're interested in Flutter, because it was still only out of beta for that. When was that, in 2019? What? Do you know?
Yeah, October, yeah. So I think
it
was
October. No, wait. Go ahead.
No, was it March that year, or was it March the year before that beta came out? It was around March, April, wasn't it? Was it
came out February.
I've lost track. Anyway,
2018.
It was gaining a lot of traction at that point, and I think we're about to, in that sort of time, we were gaining quite a lot of traction in the community and surpassing. I think around that point we were surpassing React Native, and it was around the end of 2019 that occurred. So I think there was a big sort of growth, and we wanted to just promote that a bit further. I don't think there was no motive in mind apart from let's have some fun. So and then suddenly everyone's picked it up, and ever since then everyone's adding these blue heart emojis, and yeah, there it is. It's lifted off like a rocket.
Yeah, because I was looking at that tweet. It has over like 200 retweets and like over 300 likes and all of that. Did you expect it to go that big?
No, not at all. I mean, there's no expect. None of these things. Whenever you tweet, when does anyone tweet and expect anything to come from it? It's a bit like those. And I mean, that's nothing, right? To some of these viral things you see online. Suddenly, someone gets a retweet and it's by some superstar, and suddenly they get 1 million retweets and views and all this kind of stuff. So, but it's nice to know that it's gone places, right? And everyone's appreciating it. So,
yeah,
but
definitely.
just what are you doing with the blue heart?
Yeah, so we at the At Company, obviously, we eat, sleep, breathe, drink, dream, Flutter. So we thought it'd be fun to kind of bring the two worlds together with this campaign. And the whole vibe of it is that it allows people from the Flutter community to get a free Blue Heart @ from us over the next 2 weeks. It could be anything or almost anything, so no brand names, no trademarks, but it'll just be whatever you say and a Blue Heart at the end. And these usually sell for $100, but for the next 2 weeks, we're going to be giving them away absolutely free. So how you can get involved, there's a QR code. You can scan the QR code. That'll take you to @.com/flutter-family. And we have all the information about the campaign there. And you can get your @ in 3 easy steps. First step, you go to @.com and get a free randomly generated @. That way you'll have created an account on the platform. Then after you've done that, you just fill out our free Flutter @ request form. And on that, you tell us your email address and which Blue Heart @ you want.
Is that on the web page above, the @.com/flutterfamily?
Yeah, all of this information is on there. And then after you've submitted that form, our highly skilled elves will build your @ while you wait, and you'll get a notification when it's ready. And so that will be running from today, and it ends on August the 27th. And yeah, we're hoping as many of you hop on board as you can. I think Simon, Scott, Randall, you all have a Blue Heart emoji.
I think we've got some, and I think everyone else can scan this QR code. So here's some of the ones that we've had flying around. So PK's got "I'm the PK." Our very own MH Daily's got one. I've got S Lightfoot. Somehow Flutter Whisper has been registered. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Nash.
Archangel and Nash as well. But yes, please scan the QR code. I think we'll bring up the I'll bring up the URL and put that in the chat so everyone can just click the link. That's also helpful. There we go. That's it. That's in the live chat if anyone wants to access that. I think what I'd really like to see here is people getting like their Twitter handles with that blue heart on the end, and like everyone sort of starting to really use the app protocol. And you know, it wouldn't take much to have quite a few people just join together. Just a few developers join together and make something really nice, and just to see that explosion of growth, because it's such an interesting opportunity to take privacy back, right? I mean, it really is great software and great work you guys are doing.
And also with Flutter's ability to push apps to every single platform, you know, even including Linux, Ubuntu.
Right.
You know, we can really try to spread this around. And in fact, I noticed that there was one missing from that document you showed. Thanks, buddy. Love you too.
Yeah. It happens. It happens.
One other thing to mention, actually, too. First, when you go to sign on and use an @ that has a blue heart, you have to put the blue heart on at the end. It is part of the @ Your sign-on will not work without it when you try to set up. And one other thing, those hardworking elves, you can make them work extra hard by re-randoming over and over again for about 10 minutes until you get something you really like.
So Randall, have you got a blue heart @ already?
It finally worked. So I walked through all the process, and I didn't understand I had to actually type a blue heart. And
so
of course,
I know on Windows you press the start key and semicolon, and it brings up an emoji keyboard, and then you can type blue and you get blue heart. That's how I've always done it.
Yeah,
I don't know if there's a way of doing
it
it on Mac. The Mac is probably emoji keyboard somehow you can bring up. I don't know what idea what the whole key is.
there was some sort of combination of things that I had to do, and I had to type blue heart, and it all worked. But I have it now, so I have my @ that has a blue heart on the end.
So at Randall Schwartz blue heart.
Yes, at Randall Schwartz blue heart. Yes.
So out of curiosity,
Sure.
could someone else register Randall Schwartz because his is Randall Schwartz blue heart?
Probably,
In
right?
theory, yes, but they'd also be paying for it. So,
Yeah. If you want to pay $100, go ahead. Go ahead. Try to mimic me. It doesn't work that way.
But we all know that the blue heart is the official way, you see? So,
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh, here we go again. Twitter Junior.
So I'm happy. Yeah, it is. It's all about. This is the thing I had a concern about 6 months ago when I first heard about @sign was there's going to be a scramble to register specific names that mimic people's companies, and it's like, okay, how does this all work?
So
But,
we've reserved a lot of the trademarks to make sure that that's not happening.
Okay.
But there has been a names gold rush. And in fact, many of our investors have been participants in that.
Wow.
And so, I think that they're showing kind of two stages of belief in what we're building here, in that they're putting money into the company so that we can build things, but they're also putting money into the virtual goods that the company's creating.
what was it called? They were doing with art pieces recently, where you get the digital.
Yeah.
Was it AFTs? Yeah. So you can imagine
one fungible token.
Yeah, that was it. NFT. Sorry. I noticed as well when I logged into my the @sign control panel, there's also transfers. So you can transfer ownership of an @sign to someone else, which is another interesting concept in terms of marketplace, right? We just got notified. So Nicholas Llewellyn has said it's Mac Control plus Command. So for Mac, it's Control Command Spacebar to get the emoji keyboard up. So thanks, Nicholas. So if you have any questions, and that is not just around @sign and so on, but any Flutter related questions, please put them in the chat. Indicate either with a Q, question mark emoji, or the hashtag Humpday Q&A.
And for limited time, just until the end of the stream, you can even use a blue heart.
Yeah, there we go. Yes.
This has got to be the longest we have gone without a general Flutter question. We're almost at an hour and a half, and no one has asked anything about state management.
Don't put in their heads. We'll
oh my God! Yes, we need to talk about state management, don't we?
I'm going to say to the guests, if you need to drop off, feel free. This is now open ended. So if you've got nothing to add, or you don't want to stick around, please. Feel free to leave if you want to.
No, I do have one question. When using the @sign apps, you also have personas. So you can have an @sign and have different personas where you give some information, say to family, different information to professional contacts, and different information still to friends. But it's all one @sign, but you determine who gets what information. How do you share a specific persona, though?
That's just a simplification of this idea that people have got fine-grained control over the data that they're sharing with people. So, if you think about all kinds of attributes that people could have about themselves, so, biographical data, name, address, email, telephone numbers, all that kind of stuff. And then earlier I was talking about shoe sizes, but then, it's not just text. It can be photos and other kind of objects. And so if you were trying to decide which of those attributes you were sharing with each individual contact or organization, that's just far too much complexity for people to deal with. So the whole
I was thinking like maybe if you have three,
bring it together,
one for professional, one for friends. But the thing is let's say I have Randall and I say, okay, Randall, I want to give Randall my professional information, but I don't want to give him my friend, the information I give to a friend. How do I do that?
That's the whole purpose of a persona. So you would create a friend's persona and a professional persona, and they would define which attributes you're sharing with each of those.
Right, but I'm saying the mechanics of it. Let's say I have those defined.
Yeah.
Now I meet Randall in public and I say, okay, here's my @sign, and
but that's not, again, that's not to do with your @sign. That's going to be to the persona. That's to be your app. that you're
exactly.
using. So in
But
this
Yeah,
case,
do I
this
tell him
happens in
which
the app.
person?
So
Okay.
in an app like Wavy, once you've connected to Randall, then you're choosing which persona you're sharing with Randall.
Okay.
that
So
might
when
be
Randall
one or it might be
contacts
more.
me, then I choose which one to give him.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I was wondering.
Cool. And
So-
the
and-
thing
and-
I liked, which I've heard earlier, which is that I can pull that back. I can actually say that for at Randall Schwartz Blue Heart no longer provides an email address or no longer provides a phone number.
Mhm.
And it
Yeah.
works in
That's
theory,
one of the
unless they've
reasons-
screen captured it. But
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I think they got the 2 points here, right? One is that your @sign is always going to be shared, right? That's why you could get a random one if you want to. Like, there's nothing, should we say, personal about that, right? Because you've been acknowledged by this @sign, so that's going to always be accessible. The name of the @sign. However, the data that you're sharing, if you want to remove or not share an email address, you're still referenced by the @sign to the foreign application, right? So that's your unique ID, as it were, right?
right.
But
right.
what you then share on top of that is up to you. Now, obviously, this means that from an application developer perspective, you need to understand that behavior and make sure you're accounting for that behavior in terms of, I might have had the first time I start my app, I might have had an email address for this user. The next time I start the app, I may not, right? So
yeah.
it is a different way of thinking about the process.
But
Chris.
actually, we get tied up when we're talking about privacy about the ability to share or unshare. But the more valuable aspect of this is dynamic update. And so if somebody changes their email address, they change it once and it updates everywhere that it's being used.
So you don't have to go to 500 different websites.
Yeah.
And deal with
And
that.
not just that, then verify those email address change on 500 different websites.
Yeah.
Well, and the other interesting thing too is, what if my relationship with someone changes? Because, like, let's say I've got Randall as a professional contact and he tells one too many bad jokes. Can I move him to spam?
It's already happened.
Yeah, that ship has sailed. But yeah.
So
your point is good.
Let's have a quick look here through the comments and see what we've got. Make a video on Flutter web parsing. Cool pick a topic. There's so many people that wanted to do like video call software. I think that might be that's kind of an interesting topic around that and privacy and what that you obviously can't transmit the data through, but you can do that your initial contacts and set up, and like that is just that sort of chat portion that Xavier is showing of some sort of communication app, right? So you could then share perhaps the port and the other information where you want to transmit the data to or from across using the @sign key value storage system, and then the remote can then connect up to that and you start your video call. I mean, there's definitely ways of achieving things like this with @sign and app protocol.
Yeah, and one of the things we're trying to do here is keep the secondary just for metadata.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't want to fill the secondary up with a video because it's not designed to have gigabytes of content in it.
It's more like DNS in that regard, right?
Yeah, and Collins just put a chat message in that we can. It's exactly where I was about to go. So we've been making use of the dark codecs so that we can have encrypted streams. And something else Jagan and his team's been working on very hard is our ability to restart streams. And so if you're sending somebody a gigabyte file and you've got a network hiccup or something and it's got to 990 megs, you don't want to start from 0 again. You want to start from 990. Right. And so that sort of stream resume piece is being built in there as well.
That's really handy, actually. I remember those early days of the internet when we didn't have resume in browsers, and you'd do a download and get all the way to the very end, and then your connection would drop out, or someone would pick up the landline and like would dial up, and it just all crash out. Anyway, we've also just a general Flutter question that's come through. when is native Apple Silicon support coming to Flutter? It is already there. It's in the dev branch of Flutter at the moment. So feel free to go grab that and try it out. But yeah, you can go in and try that out.
Yeah, sorry, I've been keeping a close eye on, because we're very hot for the ARM support, and Apple Silicon's just one aspect of ARM, and so yeah, it's great to see that in dev, and it'll be even better once all this stuff's made its way through to stable.
Someone's also asked if there's any suggestions for a good HLS or RTMP player for Flutter. I believe, as far as I remember, the standard video player plugin supports HLS. It's all based on they use the native features of the platform to do the decoding, and you would want to use the native features of the platform to do decoding, like the hardware decoders, to do the decoding of the streams. So you want the standard plugin and platform to do your decoding for you. So it's great to say, oh, I want it all done in Dart and Flutter and to decode that data, but you're definitely not going to want that, because it would just consume all the user's battery and make their phone very hot, because you're just doing it all on CPU and it'd be very slow. So yeah, take advantage of the pre-made plugin packages. And there's one called Video_Player, which is by the Flutter team, which should support HLS on both Android and iOS.
And another one that just came up on the popular feed that I get, Brian Egan put out one called Chewy. I'm not sure if that'll meet your needs, but you might want to take a look at that.
Chewy's quite nice because it
EWIE.
Yeah, CHEWIE. Yeah, Chewy does this nice reading thing where I think, if I remember right, it's built on top of the basic video player, where it adds all like the playback controls and lots of other stuff. You heading off, Chris?
Yeah, I need to be somewhere else. So
it's fine. As I said, this is open-ended now. So if you want to head off, please head off. If you want to add something, please add something. So thank you very much, Chris. It's been a pleasure having you on the stream.
That's been great. Thanks, guys.
Great. Yes, so Chewy adds playback controls and other things to the stream. So it kind of helps with that whole showing and hiding controls and all that kind of stuff. So you don't have to carry on. Anyway, right. What else do we have in the stream? Do we have anything else coming through? Ask your questions now while you go.
I believe you're getting a little close on time over there.
Yep.
Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you for coming.
Appreciate it.
Really appreciate it. And we hope that you, the very intelligent elves on your side, will get all those blue heart @ signs all signed up very quickly.
Yeah, hopefully they come in quick and fast.
And if anyone wants to know, this is the place
they
you
need
need
something
to go.
to do over the summer.
Yeah, got to keep them busy, right?
So how long is this on for, the scheme? Is it?
So this is on for 2 weeks. It ends on October the 27th.
Okay.
No,
so
August the 27th.
August. I was say that's a bit longer. Yeah. So basically, go register now, or you're not going to get one. So
you'll have to pay $100 for it.
Yeah. Right. All right. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Yeah.
And then there was one, Xavier.
I can stick around if there's any questions.
So far, we've not had much. So unless there's, we could, if no one's got any Flutter related questions or Dart related, sort of Dart, Flutter, or @ sign related questions, so that we could start round it up a bit earlier.
Sure.
Oh, it's hour and a half. So
we have gone to a lot longer than an hour and a half before.
Like 2.5 hours, I think was the longest.
That's just ridiculous.
Was insane. That was just insane.
Yeah. So,
yeah, we're waiting. We're watching the chat.
Is there already some way to make hot reload work on web?
No.
Technically, no. Technically, no. I would just do that. There's a nice package called Hot Reloader, which is on Pub, which you probably want to check out. But it's not like it's more like it's not as simple as what you might think. So I'm not sure if that will work on web, but try to check out Hot Reloader on pub. It might solve your problem. But to be honest, it's more of a technical way that web works, and in general, like the way that the Java has to be reloaded and everything. It's not as simple as ABC. When you
JavaScript,
yeah,
not
sorry,
Java.
it's JavaScript. Sorry, I said Java, didn't I? I'm in JavaScript. Sorry,
I know.
but it's kind of interesting that from a native perspective, you've got blocks of memory that have been assigned to the compiled code, so you just free that up and just chuck in new stuff and reinitialize a load of tables, and that's essentially what the hot reload does with the Dart environment. Whereas on web, it's the browser that's loaded the JavaScript, and there's no way to unload that JavaScript from the browser. There are some complex ways around that, but it's nowhere simple as what you might expect. So I think it might happen. It might happen, but I wouldn't push for it anytime soon. The key, I'd say, is most people want hot reload to work for development purposes. So maybe your key is to develop on desktop. So you can develop and make the desktop experience the same size as your web browser. So you can develop your Flutter application for that same user experience. And once it's working on desktop, you then do the specific changes to make it work on web, some of the Dart HTML package maybe, or something like that. And then you can then do less. So all your hot reloading is done to develop your UI on desktop, which supports hot reload, and then you're then just developing the web specific parts with web without hot reload. So hopefully that might make your development a little bit easier.
On the other hand, I have found that the web reload is rather quick.
It is. It's pretty good, actually. Yeah.
So, because it's only sending down the bits that change, it's amazing. It's using the debug protocol to kind of squirt in all that stuff. So yeah,
it still works, but essentially reloading the browser tab to drop all that JavaScript that was preloaded in there because you're loading up a fresh instance.
Yeah, but
in doing that, you lose all your JavaScript state, and that's what the hot reload part everyone likes.
Right.
When you load it up, you're getting your the hot reload keeps your state. You keep where you are in the application. You keep all that information, and it's not as simple as ABC, I'm afraid. So
when I contrast that though with my days of having to just simply hit Command R, on my browser back in the day when I was developing Perl talking to JavaScript, it's night and day. It's pretty amazing.
So we've got another one in. Richard, sorry if I've mangled your name. I'm very terrible with names. Is there any way to test an in-app purchase in debug mode? Well, there should be. So I know that Apple Pay and Google Pay both have ways of debugging and paying for things in debug mode. There's no reason why, if you do an in-app purchase and choose one of those payment methods, it should just work with their test ones. So I honestly, I've never actually had to do that. So I would take a look at the in-app package. There's an official in-app Flutter package. I think it still needs some work and some love for iOS, and it's definitely better on Android. But if you find out, please feed it back to the community. So if there's no more questions. Do you have any news to talk about at the moment and what's been happening this past week? I'm trying to think if there's anything magical that's been happening at the moment, but I've been so busy.
Most of the usual questions. That's all I see. I'm patrolling, the usual 9 places, and it seems to be that people are still having the same sorts of questions, which is nice because it means Flutter is sort of settled down and life is good for a lot of people there. And people are getting jobs, and just for a moment, I'll say I may be looking for a new job. So if you're out there looking for somebody smart, I might be available.
Hey, Ada Hill just registered his app sign.
Oh, nice.
Yep, recognize that one. There's cool. If you watch the @sign website, you can see the registered ones going through.
Yeah. Cool.
So, okay. Well, some more questions. Another question snuck in. Let's see if we can
really? Yes. semantics.
Hi, with semantics, is it possible to execute automatically in order?
What does that mean?
Yeah,
See,
because semantics.
so the semantics widgets are more about like the speech to
Right.
the text to speech that happens as part of the blind
Yeah.
browsing, right? That's just one of the use of semantics, just one of them. So accessibility. Is it possible to execute automatically in order? I think I get what he's talking about. So when it reads off, when you navigate, it reads off the section that you're going to, right? If you wanted to read off of a series of semantic widgets that have labels, the answer is no, you can't get to read off the widgets, because the whole idea of having the widgets separated with what there's a container parameter to semantic widgets that tells it to separate them off. You could do your own, add in your own semantics widget with your own label, and then it would read off the entire thing. That's one way of doing that. There's also a semantics, I think it's semantics service or accessibility service in Flutter, and it has a static method which allows you to tell your platform that you want it to read off whatever the string is, and it will speak those words. So if the user performs some action that in your accessibility, like press the button to say purchase, you can say item purchased, and so that when if it's someone with a headset and they're blind and they're swiping on the screen, they say, okay, I've purchased the item, and it'll read off saying item purchased. So there's other ways of doing it. I hope that answers your question. It's hard to understand sometimes, just one question without context. So hopefully that puts you on the right path. Anything to add, guys? Just
that should be able to add semantics anywhere at any level. So if you have a complex widget, let me just add it at the top of it.
I just found it. It's semantic service announce, which lets you announce stuff, and it also has apparently tooltip as well. And I don't know what tooltip does, but go have fun. Right.
Multi-language with Firebase.
Is there a best practice with Flutter and Firebase to get multi-language to work? I mean, here's the thing, right? That's just too vague to answer. I mean, it supports multi-language. What about multi-language is not working for you, and what are you trying to solve? So, for instance,
what are you trying to accomplish? Maybe instead of talking about Firebase.
Yeah, I mean, so in general, when you're trying to deal with multi-language, what you need to do is keep a it's almost like a hash map, but an index of the value that you're trying to show the user versus the language you're trying to show it in. Now, of course, in your database, if an end user has created content and you've put that in your Firestore, then it's going to be in English, or it's going to be in French, or whatever language they decide to input it in, right? So there is a Firebase extension for translation, I believe. So if you look at Firebase extensions, and you can key off these things so that once data is added to the Firestore database, it will automatically translate it for you. So that might help. So imagine that kind of Twitter thing when it will translate tweets for you. You can do that kind of thing. The other thing is to make sure that when you're storing data, you're storing it with the associated language key. And normally there's 2-letter language ISO codes. There's a standard for it. Why do I think it's 3360 or something like that? The ISO country codes. It's the 3166. I was close. ISO 3166, and that will give you the 2-letter country code for the UK. It's like GB, and then you have US for US, funny enough, and all those kind of things. It's good to use that as your key. So if you're storing a string, you store an object instead, with the key being the language code, the ISO language code, and the value being what language it's written in. That can also help. But there's no like magical make language support work, right? Because it's different to how anyone wants to do it. Like it's up to you to choose how you want to implement it. When it comes to an app, there's plenty of stuff about how to make your apps multilingual. And to support multiple languages. So go look those up. There's actually some great articles on the Flutter community Medium about this. But in general, it is the same thing. You're providing I think it's localization, app localization. There's a couple of classes. There's a couple of packages out there that generate the dark class files from. They're called ARB files, language files for translation, or spreadsheets. There's various mechanisms for generating them, and basically they end up being is a dark class with a series of getters and the strings, and then it's up to you to call those functions inside your app instead of putting the hard-coded string in. But when it comes to Firebase, yeah, there's nothing magically multi-language about it. Yeah, hopefully that helps put you in the right direction. Oh, look, he just said that. Yeah, I was thinking about the contents of the database. So yes, is what I've just said. So what I would recommend you do is make a class in your app called multilingual string that is has a hash map inside it, and then you can then add that to your objects and have it automatically JSON decode. If you add like JSON serializer or one of these libraries, it will automatically put in the language strings for all languages that you're storing in the database. But yeah, hopefully that helps. What else do we have here? What about new fragment shaders API? Is it a fix for inconsistent color filter widget in Flutter web and mobile? The new fragment shader API is nowhere near finished as far as I understand it. It's literally just been picked up. I don't know if it's made its way into dev yet. The inconsistency of color filtered is more about the differences between the way the rendering system works. So on mobile, you're getting a completely custom rendered surface using Skier, so it supports the filtering, color filtering. On web, you're using, depending on the engine, the web engine you're using, you'll be using the browser's widgets, and those won't support the color filter because of the way they're rendered. However, you can force the Skier renderer on web. I forget what the extra parameter is. It is documented on the Flutter website, and in doing so, when you what is the mode called? It escapes me. But there's a mode that you can build your app for, where on web it will use one canvas widget and render everything to that. And in that scenario, color filter should just work the same as mobile.
You're not talking about Canvas Kit, are you?
Canvas Kit, yeah, Canvas Kit. I think it's Canvas Kit. I forget, they changed it not too long ago when they released officially released Flutter Web. You could have the two modes, and on mobile it would use on mobile web it would use one mode, and on desktop web it would use the Canvas Kit. But you can force Canvas Kit on both. So hopefully that helps.
I was looking at this and I'm trying to.
Well, I understand. Is there a way to implement offline support and sync without using Firebase and Amplify? Yes. Implement it.
I mean, yeah, and I'm like, it amplifies a way to make Flutter app.
Firebase and Amplify libraries are just doing it for you, right? So if you want to do it without using those libraries, do it without using those libraries. You've literally just given it. I think the other question is, how do I implement offline support and sync without using a library, right? And the answer is yes. Just download the data. I mean, the point here is that you want to download the data to a folder. So you just use the file directory classes that are built into Dart and Flutter to create a directory, store your data that you're downloading from wherever it is. It could be Firebase, it could be wherever you want online. You get your data back, you store it in the folder. When your app starts up, you read that data from the folder first before trying to get it from the web. And that way, you're using your cached copy, which is offline, before it tries to go online. And that's it. Simple as that. That's how all of these work. They all have, obviously, error handling and wrappers around it. And sync is a bit more complicated. Don't get me wrong. Offline support is straightforward. Sync can become a complex problem. But the best way to solve sync is to have version numbering, and always just do a very simple sync where the most recent version wins. So each time you make a change to I said blob of data, but whatever you want to encompass one syncable item in. So this could be like a user account. It could be any sort of object that you're dealing with your data structures. Attach a version number to it, an integer, and each time you make a change to the object, you increment the number, and then that gets stored on disk in your local directory when you convert to JSON and store it to disk, or when you upload to the server. And then the most recent version wins. So if someone made a change after you made that one offline, then your one that was offline loses because the one on the server was more recent of a change. And it's that simple. It's that simple. You can do other things like dates, and then you can also do resynchronous comparisons. And there's actually many solving algorithms for doing this. It's just, it depends on what your scenario is and what you're trying to do to how important it is. So yeah, there's not much I can talk to in regard to that. Oh, and
but this is a solved problem. It's not
it's a
really
problem,
like
right?
anything you have to invent. You just need to read the literature.
Well, here's something that someone's just said. I think ObjectBox, I don't know, ObjectBox have released a Flutter package, which is really nice. It's an object store system. That makes that, if they, I assume, I honestly, they have offline support. I know that, and they've probably got sync support because that's their whole library and package. That's what it's all around, having this kind of like fetching and syncing from an object store. So yeah, check out ObjectBox. Maybe that will solve your problem in one click. But again, you're relying on another library and system, and the question is, if you're trying to do it yourself, well, you're going to be doing it yourself, right? So,
I mean,
I think that here's the interesting thing, right, to say about like this kind of thing. There's one way. There's this kind of notion of coding it yourself, and there's a piece of you that always says when you work on these things, I'm never going to do it as good as Amplify or Amazon's because they've got a million staff members all working on this thing and it's going to be awesome. But the point here is you don't need all the functionality of the library. So what you need is specific to your task, and you don't have to have all the functionality that these other libraries have because they're generic for a lot of people to use to get them to people to use their services, right? Whereas what you've got is a very unique subset. Only what you need it to do, you make it do. Aside from that side of it, there's the other bonuses from this in terms of you can help track down the bugs, you understand the code that you've written. If there's a bug in Amplify or Firebase, that's it. You literally put your hands up and go, I'm going to wait for them to solve it because I don't know the technology stack. I don't know the inner workings of their libraries to go fix that problem. Or if I did, it would take me just as long as to maybe do something myself, right? So there's that side of the coin to mention. But there's also a learning experience here, right? There's always, when you do it yourself, you learn how Amplify and Firebase must do it themselves. And that gives you not just an appreciation, but an understanding of what the parameters mean and how you use other people's code in a similar topic, right? A similar field. So yeah, there's try it yourself. There's no harm in trying it yourself. And if you feel that you want to continue with it and you can cover all the scenarios and aspects you want, go ahead, do it. But yeah, if you're time limited and if you're doing an MVP and you just need to get this thing out the door, go with a pre-made solution, and then later on you can refine it, because otherwise you'll be wasting your time at the beginning. You've got no time to waste at the very beginning of a project.
Xavier, I heard this crazy rumor that with about 5 minutes left in the show, you're going to run away. You can't stay the last 5 minutes?
I can stay the last 5 minutes.
Because, I think after 2 hours, my computer loses the magic smoke.
Yeah, right. I mean, I'm about to lose magic smoke. I've had to close the door in here because, the background sound and stuff. So I'm like...
Okay. And we're going to avoid any more comments about magic smoke because we do want to keep this kid friendly.
Right. Okay. Any last minute questions? Otherwise, we're going to wrap up.
One comment. This has really been great having everybody on the show because now I still have a voice left. And that is very appreciated. Let me tell you, very much, very much.
It is tough to maintain continuous talking for, I used to do 8 hours a day. So I understand. It's truffle.
It also it does take it out of you as well, because you're on the
Yeah,
ball.
yeah.
You're focused for a very short period of time. So you'll be
What
surprised.
a
Like
lot
doing
of,
those. Go on.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I mean, a lot of people in the audience, I mean, we know a lot of you, obviously, and a lot of you give presentations, you know, about on Flutter.
Right.
But one thing that is a little bit different than giving a live presentation or, you know, a remote presentation is we don't know what topics the questions are going to come on. We just say, do you have Flutter questions?
But that's the
And
best part.
we don't know, is it going to be state management? Is it going to be web? Is it going to be
Right.
AWS? Is it going to be, and you just have to try to roll with it as best you can. And if you don't know the answer, then try to point people in a direction that maybe they can find it. But
Yeah. Yeah. I
So-
made a decent living for many decades on being a presenter in front of a room for corporate internal training. And one of the things that I found is that when I could find somebody else to work with me who could do that, I treated them like gold, because it was like an amazing skill to have the ability to hit your mark at 8 a.m. every day and be basically showbiz for the whole day, because that's what this is when you do it, and also have the technical knowledge. So it is an amazing complementary set of skills. Thanks for the 2-minute warning. But I just was saying that this ability to be in front of people for a given amount of time is not to be underestimated.
Right. On that note,
and then of course
I think-
we have to go straight to a day job.
Yeah, I think we've all places
We
to
do.
be, and Xavier's got
do.
libraries to finish.
We
Yeah.
do.
So Xavier, honestly, thank you very much for talking us through that code and showing us @signs.
Yes, thank you.
The
Now,
libraries as
Xavier,
well.
welcome to our world. You see, you don't get to take a break after the show. This was your lunch break.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you got to go back on the clock.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I'll be happy doing that.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll hope to see you soon.
Yes. This was fun. Always.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.